We're going to do our introductions. Hello, I am RBT Anita Morris. I've been in RBT, the ABA field for about 6 years now, and this is my co-host.
Hi, I'm Diego Contreras. I've been in RBT for about 4 years now and loved every moment of it.
um, so today's topic is reducing challenging behaviors at home. As much as I have loved this job for the past 6 years, there are the moments of challenging behaviors that are not fun. They're not my favorite, but they're my favorite to get through and work through. This is a big question that gets asked by parents. This is probably the number one thing that most parents come in to like discuss, talk about. It's like, all right, Timmy Tommy's doing this, and this at home. What do we do? How do we fix this? What do we do? And that's where we're going to get started into it. But first, we're going to go over what is behavior. A behavior is anything your child says or does. It does serve a purpose, and it's a way of communicating a need or getting something they want. There are multiple functions of behavior, attention, automatic, so like getting that instant sensory feel, access to tangible, just I want what I want, and this is how I do to get what I want.
Absolutely. And then you also have escape, which is you're asking me to do something and I don't want to do it. Absolutely.
That's always the one that I forget. Escape. But it's a big one. So I'll say most of the time we do see a lot for like escape and like attention, especially like bad attention is still attention.
Absolutely.
So it's crucial to understand that all of these functions and so it's important to understand that like all of this it's communicating something, even if it is I don't want to do this, I'm gonna try to run away. That's them saying, because I know communication is one of the most biggest deficits in
Obstacles.
or
Like it's obstacles.
yeah,
Mhm.
in having the ASD diagnosis. So this is how they have learned or figured out how to say what they want and what they mean. Um, we consider like a challenging behavior because there's an easier way to say, I don't want to do this instead of just running, but that we just haven't learned that part yet. So our goal isn't to like stop the behavior so much as it is to work through to change the behavior into something more functional, a better way to communicate what you're wanting. So we'll do what is like the appropriate replacement skill so that we can learn and have I guess a more immediate response to serve that function. So that's our behavior. What it is, it's a communication form. It's just not the most effective one. So that's what we do. So our number one thing is figuring out how to work it so that it is more functional, so that it's understood by a larger group of people. So first, when we look at it, we look at the ABCs of the behavior. The A is for antecedent. The antecedent is the before. What happened before this big behavior? What could have caused it? What could have led up to it? The B for behavior of what is the action itself? What happened? And then C for consequence. And I know consequence gets thrown around a lot.
Negatively. That's like a negative connotation around consequence for something bad occurring or something negative that occurred afterwards.
But in our terms, it doesn't necessarily mean like something bad. Like there's so many different kinds of consequences. So like we'll go through let's see, a big behavior that like I'll see is when it's time to transition off of something fun. So the antecedent is like, hey, it's time, to go to the bathroom. And then the behavior is possibly that screaming, kicking, throwing,
Mhm.
And
Yelling, no, I'm not going.
I'm not going to the bathroom.
Eloping, right?
Eloping. Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Tell them like, if you're not ready, talk to me. Or providing, the words to say it. The consequence isn't necessarily like, oh, you know, they started running, so I pick them up and I bring them to the bathroom. That's not what we do. That's not a functional behavior on our end because that's not the expectation that we're hoping to set.
Absolutely. It's not a functional replacement. If every time we decided to run and every single time someone is coming and picking you up, it leads to, okay, I'm just gonna go now, and they're gonna follow me, and then it sets up that reinforcement of I know you're gonna come. And so you're reinforcing the negative behavior of running. If I just go and pick you up and bring you back, right?
And and a big thing for like us is like that unintentional reinforcing, like, well, now they've learned to like getting picked up. That's like one of their things. And now you're doing it because I'm running away. That's a quick and easy way to get it. So now later when I'm playing and I want you to pick me up, I'm gonna just start running. So this is where we look at also like for the antecedent, like what happened beforehand, what's leading to this. Because then like for the big behavior of like, I'm trying to not go to the bathroom. That's just a getting up and going. And now when we see it in play, it's like, where is this coming from? What's happening? So that's a big thing that we have to look out for, like when it comes to like consequences. And we know that it is pretty challenging in the beginning of setting up that consistent work and routine for like this is how we're responding to this. But so we're gonna go more in depth on like how what is the function of that behavior and how we kind of like come at it. So here again is our four functions of behavior. So like when it comes to that escape, that trying to leave, run away, we have to like reset, bring it back to like, oh,
Mhm.
running isn't our option right now. Do you want, to go a fun way to go to the bathroom, or do you want to like wait a minute? It's kind of like the way we work around it. And then we see more of like that tangible, like, oh, every time I scream, every time like I throw something, somebody wants to give me a cookie to calm down and sit down. So that tangible to access. The attention. This is a big one. Cause in the classroom, I'm screaming at, little Susie Q. You know what the teacher's gonna do? The teacher's gonna come up right to me. You need to stop doing that. But you're feeding my attention.
Absolutely.
And like a lot of people say, like at the schools, like, you know, bullies only bully because they get a response. And that's kind of it. It's like you give them that response, you give them that attention, and then it's like it's not good attention, and that's like a learned behavior. And that learned behavior of like, oh, let me do this and this and this. So that's also a big part of like why we have to look at the antecedent, like why they're doing this.
Absolutely. And I will say sometimes finding the antecedent is hard, especially if they're not engaging with them beforehand. Like if they're engaging in like an independent play and they're just like kind of off to themselves. And then all of a sudden a challenging behavior comes, you're like, whoa, what happened? And
I thought we were having a good time.
yeah, the blocks fell over. Okay, like we can remedy this. We can yeah. So I think sometimes the what happens is sometimes when we're not engaging all like when we're not in the engagement prior to a challenging behavior, and then it occurs, and it's like, is this attention maintained, or is it because you want me to come and play with you? Is it because you wanted your favorite toy and I have it in my pocket? Is it because you're done playing with the blocks and they all fall over and now you don't want to touch it anymore? And so then that comes back into finding the function of the behavior, like what was it that caused it, so I can address it, so that we can implement a replacement, so that we understand that there are better coping mechanisms to have than than causing a disruption.
I know that's a big one for me of acknowledging my antecedent, especially when I do want that attention. I know I get annoying. I'm like, hey, and I start like bumping into things. I get annoying for like my attention seeking behaviors. It's like, hey, 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 that's not sustainable.
Anita, I wanted to let you know that Shaz agrees with you on your behavior.
Shaz is boss man, and you know what? He's right.
He's right. Signed up for
I second that.
I third it.
At least my behaviors are consistent. I will say that. And then now we go to the sensory automatic. These ones are a little tricky, especially because like that behavior in of itself is the reward. Like I know I had a client where they really liked breaking things because of the sound and the look of the shattering. So it's like already right there, like, oh, the visual, the auditorial of it all was just in of itself a great experience. And it took a little while to like find our replacement of like we would throw ice cubes at the wall on the in the backyard so we can find a replacement to it because there's something about like the sensory. It's like we all need it. We may not realize it, like sitting at home, you know, I need the pressure of a blanket on my legs. So that's my automatic behavior. Like, oh, I need blanket, put it on to kind of like self-soothe as well. And so that's where it does start getting really tricky when it is that automatic self-soothing behavior. But thankfully, we've been in this field long enough. We find out functional replacements.
Absolutely. I think one that I've seen really prevalent is like the self-stimulation with eye poking.
Hmm.
And so like the automatic sensory input of like changing vision, and like the pressure of putting the finger on the eye, that creates an automatic sensory input but is very dangerous. And so
Hmm.
finding like a functional alternative to it, like what I've seen this across many of my clients, and so like what works for one does not work for the other.
No.
And so like one client, we found a pair of glasses and the glasses were a perfect functional replacement, because what he was getting from the sensory input of eye poking, changing vision, he now got that from color changing glasses or kaleidoscope glasses. Another client, it was the pressure that he truly enjoyed. And so like finding like an eye mask, like a weighted eye mask was a really good functional replacement to stop the dangerous behaviors of eye poking, but also feel that automatic sensory need of wanting something to fulfill that.
Hmm. I so that we've talked a lot about the behaviors itself, like what it is, what they are. So now we're going to go touch on how we kind of get ahead of these behaviors. So, like, this is like when we change the antecedent, we change the beforehand.
Absolutely.
We look at that. I know, for if I have known the behavior for like a little bit, then I can start saying, like, okay, we're just going to change the environment to make it work. I know for me, I will not be productive if like there's things on my couch. So I'm changing my environment of I'm just removing things off of the couch. I have to get through that first. and then I keep going. And, changing the environment is as easy as just putting the thing away. I know that I had a client who really liked like the shiny of like kitchen knives. That's not a great behavior. So what we would do is like we would hide all, of course, all like the dangerous shinies and then just leave a box of like the good ones. Like of the little like it's a fidget toy that you spin in your hands and it gives that reflection real nice. So we change the environment to like better set ourselves up for success. If I know that, being denied access to a certain toy is going to set off, one of my clients, that toy is not going to be in the room.
Absolutely.
We're not going to see it for us to be upset to even be told no. Change the environment. I know a big part of it too is like if it's like the escape function for like leaving somewhere fun at the very beginning before we even step foot into the room. I'm like, all right, here's our rules, here's our plan. When our timer goes off, we're going to, and then they help fill in the blanks, we're going to leave. If I want more time, I can ask for it. To just kind of change the environment first.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes like that's enough of just getting ahead of it and addressing it beforehand and creating those very clear boundaries. Creating those very clear boundaries, expectations is enough to work through these challenging behaviors. So I know I had one client, oh, what a guy he was. He was so clever because if you are already like in the environment, you're already doing something. And if you had to backtrack on your rules, we're losing our minds. So before we go anywhere, we had to be very clear, direct. Here's every rule. Can you help me figure them out? Letting them like take control in that situation of like saying the rules to me, asking me like, well, what are your rules? Like, oh, my teacher rules are blah, 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 blah. As like part of like giving that control back for them to so that this is going to sound really weird, but to give them as much like controlled choices as possible. In my heart I wanted to say fake choices, but that's not necessarily true. It's controlled choices because some of these activities are non-negotiables. We're going to the bathroom, we got to go wash our hands. But what we can change about this environment before we even get there is how are we getting there?
Do you want to stop? Do you want to hop? Do you want to skip? That's a choice for you to make on how we get there, making it more fun, more engaging, making it seem like I have a choice in what I get to do. Therefore, this is all like I get to control my environment. I'm having a good time.
Oh yeah.
When you're having a good time, you're not thinking about revving yourself up to engage in maladaptive behavior. You're too busy having a good time.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
And so then after the antecedent, we teach communication. This is our number one. If, you're not ready to leave the park, tell me. Tell me. Tell me just, I need 2 more minutes. I need, 5 more minutes. If, we're having a hard time, leaving our toys, just that communication of these toys will be ready for you, when you come back. You know what? Sometimes even I will set like the toys. I'm like, all right, this is the waiting for a Timmy Tommy spot. This toy is going to sit here and wait for you to come back to get it. It's because all of these behaviors are serving as a form of communication that isn't the most functional. So finding the right words to say, and even sometimes saying, I'm upset that I have to leave this area. But
giving them the words. There you go. Yes.
And then like coming like, oh, here's the words, here's what we're feeling. And then giving them also like letting them know that you can come back or, we just need to ask. That's a big part that I know a lot of people like will struggle with. Like when it comes to like attention seeking, like the tossing toys, like moving things over. I know that Like, I'll just kind of like look off to the side. I still see my learner off to the side. I'm like, if somebody wants to join my conversation or talk to me, they can say my name. They can come up and tap my arm
Yeah.
as giving that communication to give them the words for like what they're needing, what they're wanting. Like that's a really big thing, is just
Absolutely.
figuring it out. Um, I'll say the escape is sometimes a little hard, but giving them, oh, yes, I see your hand is raised.
Thank you for acknowledging my hand. So, on the topic of teaching communication, and you went into talking about trying to give them some autonomy, to reinforce them having a choice. When we do that, are we providing choices for them? Like, okay, you're not ready to leave the park. Do you want to stay for 2, 5, or 10 minutes? Or are we just starting off with bargaining? They give out a time and we're like, no, come up with
Absolutely
another
not.
time. Which
I would
which
say
one are
no,
we
you
doing?
give the
You're
choices.
giving the choices. This is not a bargaining chip. This is you letting them know this is what we're doing. If you are not comfortable with that, if you're having a tension with that, validate their feelings. I understand that you're not ready to go. Because you let me know using your words, I will give you, you can let me know, do you want 2 more minutes or 5 more minutes? And then you set that audible timer
Mhm.
or some type of visual, be like, hey, this is how much time we have, and you give the controlled choices, and the fact that you control the choices. It's not a bargaining. This is not a you get, I get, you get, I get. This is the demand that I'm giving, and within my demand, you can choose if you want 2 minutes or 5 minutes. And if you're going to try to go to back and forth, then we can take the time away. We're like, you just showed me that you're not ready to make the choice. Therefore, I'm going to make the choice for you.
Thank you.
So like at work, I carry my little visual timer and I use it for everything. But if that's not available, of course, you have your timer on your phone.
Time on your watch.
So it is like when it comes to those non-negotiables, giving them the little aspect, for their autonomy is real important. But going to the bathroom, non-negotiable. But you can pick of my choices, how you want to go. But if they're like at a state where they can say like, oh, I don't want to hop or jump, I want to run. Like that's fine. But knowing that it's within like the controlled choice of it's getting done,
Mhm.
but here's your part. And I did see another hand raised, Alicia.
Do you ever have clients where you find that you have made a change to the environment or maybe to how you proceed with things, but after a while they tend to backtrack? And how do you guys go about if they constantly need like that change because they kind of ran out of the time on it?
We do see some regression
Absolutely.
on behaviors. Learning is not linear. As much as like we hope that it is, it's just not. And so when it comes to like those regressions, we do have to stop, backtrack, figure it out,
Mhm.
replan. And that's okay, because sometimes that just happens. Regression happens. The best thing that we can do is, try a different angle.
Mhm.
So sometimes we do have to just,
Stop the regression in its tracks. Stop it before it gets worse.
mhm.
And then create a plan to move forward so that we're not continuing to go back. But it does require several reworks. Absolutely. Absolutely. As she said, learning is not linear.
Thank you. That was a very good answer.
Alrighty. So, again, to like reiterate, giving those controlled choices so that they have that autonomy in that situation. Like I always go back to like when I'm in a personal crisis, the only thing that I can change is cutting my hair. But that's something that's within my control and that I can pick. So giving that kind of format to somebody else of like, all right, everything else, it can't go your way, but what can you do?
Mhm.
That's very important because I know like having this diagnosis, sometimes things just feel out of your control, for family and for the person who actually has the diagnosis. Like it's a little tough, like emotionally. So like reminding ourselves like of our little choices that we can control. Sometimes that's enough to like get ahead of a behavior, or if we're in it, like, alrighty, we can go, here, to let it out, or we can go jump, let it out. So giving those choices to like communicate, like, all right, this is what we need. Which one do you want? And that's enough to like get through, like, okay, that communication part is really big. And sometimes what helps is that visual support, like visual schedules, rules, checklists. Because sometimes what it is, it's unpredictable what's going to happen next.
To establish
Mhm.
a routine. Yes.
Mhm. Like I know for me, if my routine is thrown off, I'm ruined for the next 2 days. And so like for me, my visual support is my planner. I have highlighted boxes of like where everything is supposed to go. My free time is one color, but like I can change what it is day to day.
Mhm.
It's like for our earlier learners, sometimes that visual schedule of just bathroom, play, work, and maybe play again, depending like on like what they need to see to know what's happening, can sometimes curb the behavior. Because I don't like when things are out of my control. I don't like know what's happening. Like if there's a plan, we have to follow the plan.
Absolutely. I was searching my pockets for check marks, like my check marks for the big room. We have our own little visual schedule, and of course, I'm always keeping something in my pockets. But right now, I only have sticky notes. But I was just gonna go into your point of making that visual schedule, because for younger children, a check mark system where I can put school at this time. After this, I have therapy.
Mhm.
After this, I go home. After this, I brush my teeth.
Mhm.
After I complete this, then I get to play my game. After that, it's time to go to bed. Having that visual schedule where I can switch things myself, again creating those controlled choices, that autonomy for them, where they can move their own schedule around. They visually are able to see what's going on. They're able to feel what's going on. It hits that sensory of like, okay, I did this myself, so this is what I know I'm going to do.
Mhm.
Creating that predictability, creating that routine. I do see your hand raised.
Good evening. So my question is for the visual support. Say that you have the visual support and all of it fails. The schedule's off. They're not following the rules. The checklist is just everywhere, anywhere. What would you do to try to bring it back to to get everything back in place from the chaotic stuff that's going on that day for the child?
That is a wonderful question. And this is something that I actually use at this moment. It's called a mystery motivator. You're going to want to catch your child doing something good at some random moment in time. Just when they think that you're not looking,
Mhm.
you're going to want to catch them doing good and give it. It can literally be the smallest prize you can find. It can be a bouncy ball that you picked up outside. Like the point is, they don't know what it is. You found them doing good, and for you finding them doing good, they got a prize for it. It reinforces that positive behavior. They're like, oh man, I was just doing this by myself and I got a prize. So I'm gonna keep doing good by myself, and maybe I'll get a prize. The point is, you're gonna want to randomize it as much as possible to increase the odds of them doing good without you having to ask. This is going to help you get back on track with that flow system that you created, and then you can slowly start fading out that reward system that you created.
The motivation is everything.
Mhm.
Because no, I'm not going to do what you asked. Because what's my point? What's the
Mhm.
point of doing
What
it?
do I get out of this? If I do what you ask me, what do I get out of it? Basically.
And so that's where we look at the behaviors too, is like, what's the motivation for doing the behavior? What's the motivation for, doing something different? Motivation is everything. I know for like me, my motivation in of itself is checking things off my checklist. I find like finding that small like success
Mhm.
and then exaggerating that to remind ourselves or remind our clients like, oh, this is why I'm doing this.
Mhm.
You know, I know for myself, like I have like 3 tiny tasks, and then as soon as I accomplish them, that's like, oh, I did something. Okay, let me go to the next one. Let me go to a little bit of a bigger one. And that motivation is everything. That little like, congratulations for like taking a big deep breath. That's everything. It's just like, oh, to remind them why we're even doing this.
Absolutely. And I think the hardest thing is like even when they're in behavior, when you catch them doing something that you asked them to do, you still have to reinforce that too. If they're in the middle of having a meltdown and they took that deep breath, nice job taking that deep breath, even though they're still on the floor kicking and screaming. Like, I want you to realize that yes, you should be taking that deep breath. You should be counting using your hands. If that automatic sensory input is you squeezing your hand when you're still upset, nice job squeezing your hands when you're upset. It's still giving that positive reinforcement so that even if I am engaging in those disruptive behaviors, I'm still getting the reinforcement of what I should be doing.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I've had a client who was throwing chairs across the room, and that but he said my name ever so nicely, you know. Like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
I used your name so nicely.
So nicely. And so this is kind of how we try to get ahead of it, but you know, it's not going to work every time. Sometimes we're in it. There's not much that we can do. So let's react to it. So withholding the function. Now that seems like a little off, especially when it comes to like our attention seeking.
Mhm.
But withholding that function so we can figure out the better way to communicate. I know that I've had, you know, a lot of clients with that attention seeking, that they do a lot of maladaptive attention seeking behaviors. And I gotta wait them out. I gotta wait them out. So I'm not going to give them that attention. And mind you, I am always aware of what my learner is doing at all times. Even if I am not directly looking at them, I am always in a position where I can see them out of my corner of my eye.
Mhm.
But to them, it just looks like I'm ignoring it. I am aware of everything at all times. But you know, for that attention seeking, I just kind of wait them out. And like every once in a while, I'll give like, you know, if my friend wants to talk to me, they're gonna say my name, they're gonna tap my arm, you know, for like that access to tangible, you know, you're wanting this toy real bad. I'm gonna put it up real quick. I'm not gonna
Me nicely.
Yep.
Use your words. Or
Mhm.
hey, if you don't want to talk to me, I'll take a point.
You know,
Just as long as we're nice and we have our hands
tell me.
to ourselves. Yeah.
You know, my big thing is like in these middles of these behaviors, my phrase is, I am not an accessory to your behavior. No. So like when it comes to that toy, like you want that toy and you know, you're coming at me crazy, I'm not an accessory to your behavior. So I'm just gonna wait it out, you know.
Absolutely.
If you want this toy, you know, this is how we can get our toy.
Absolutely. And it's really important to not like we do not want to be like, okay, this is what you should have done. Here you go though. That still reinforces the negative behavior that we're seeing. He's like, oh, I'm just gonna get a small talking to and then I can get my toy back. And that little 5-second conversation is worth it. I got my toy. So making sure that we're running those corrective strategies, making sure that we're resetting the situation. If the toy is still up there, you walk away for a moment. Walk away. Walk away and then go back and be like, oh, I see that you're sitting so nicely. Did you want to ask me something about this item here? And then you can let them, then you go in and you give them the reinforcing item that they're wanting. It corrects the behavior and it makes sure that you're not reinforcing the negative behavior.
Mm-hmm. So like that's great for like getting access to something, you kind of walk away from it, you wait for them to like come to you to do the appropriate action of like asking for it. Or sometimes, we're like, all right, well, you threw your toys, let's put away, one of our toys. Thank you. But the last thing that they should remember about this is that they, did like the desired behavior of like asking, you know, handing you something, for like escape. What we do is like we have like a little break card.
Mhm.
So like, and as soon as they touch that card, even if I have to hold, this card up to them, like, do you need a break? As close as I can.
Ah.
But I can't work. But as soon as like, yeah, but of course, we're done. We're good.
Absolutely. And that doesn't mean that we're done for everything. But if we need to walk away for 10 seconds and then go back to it, if we decide that, this break is going to be 15 minutes of us, I don't know, crocheting. She loves crocheting. If this is 15 minutes of us crocheting, the first thing we are going to do when we get back is exactly what you asked to take a break on. It doesn't mean that we get to avoid it all the time, but if you want to not do it that moment, and everyone procrastinates, and like it's just everyone procrastinates. If you need to procrastinate for five seconds, 10 minutes, let's procrastinate that. But as soon as we're done with this break of ours, that is the first thing that we're going back to.
Like the famous quote of like, they ask how many, they don't ask how. You know, it doesn't bother me if it takes us an hour to get something done, then it takes us an hour. We're getting it done,
Hmm.
and that's fine. They don't ask how, they ask how many. And so if it takes a little while, that's okay. But the big thing to remember is to remain calm and consistent. Because if you're like getting exacerbated by this behavior, oh, that's feeding into it. So like, and I know that's like probably the hardest part is that staying calm.
Reaction, keeping a neutral voice. I would say that's the hardest part, keeping a neutral voice, because you're yelling at me. I want to yell at you too. Like, I don't care if you're five. Why are we raising our voices?
But that
You
calm reminder of
I'm
like,
about to say, but if I remain calm, you're more likely to model me,
because
you know?
I know some like children, like they see like if you're, hooting and hollering with me, it just escalates it. But seeing how, like I'm more relaxed about it, you're having a moment. Sometimes that helps to let them know like it's not as big or as serious as I think. But keeping that calm, like, hey buddy, do you want the toy? Do you need a break? That me keeping calm to let them know like we can have our feelings about this. That's fine. Have our feelings, let's feel it. Let me help you find the words for it. That remain calm, like, all right. So that kind of helps them regulate out because if we're at this point of escalation, you know, you yelling with them is only gonna keep the stakes up.
Absolutely. And when they're in high that high energy place, when they're in their most challenging behavior, when you begin to react the same way, even though you're trying to implement some like discipline and learning, they're not hearing it. It's like we're both in our angry modes now. It doesn't matter what we're doing, and you're still trying to like let them know, and they're not hearing it. It's in one ear and out the other, because right now they're in their flight or fight mode. It's not about learning through the situation. It's about feeling my feelings right now, this moment, and getting through it. And so now we have to pull you out of the fight or flight mode.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way we can do that is by remaining neutral.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way we can pull you out of it. And then after you are out of that fight or flight mode, then we can do the correction, reset the situation, and continue on about whatever we're doing.
Oh yeah. And for our clients here at Verity, each and every client will have their own behavior intervention plan for every behavior, because not every behavior that they exhibit is the same function. So what we do is like we figure it out why, we figure out the how, and then what to do afterwards. So that's a big part of like every single time we're in a behavior, we have a plan that we're following, and that helps us stay calm. Like, all right, we already know what to do.
Absolutely. Consistency around everyone is key.
Oh yes, that's a really big part. So now we've tried to get ahead of the behavior. We've been in the behavior. We're figuring it out, and now here we are at the end of the behavior and the kind of like the repairing of it. Like this is when everyone's like, "Oh, positive reinforcement." I know that terms that thrown around loosely, but for us in this field, the positive reinforcement is that we're adding something to keep the behavior that we would like to see going, that we want to see more of it. And this is where like Davia has mentioned, like the mystery motivator, like catching them being good, like catching those great moments, like, and it doesn't have to be a successful moment either. If there is an effort, if there is an attempt, like even though like you're trying to, fill up your cup, you're trying to do that by yourself. Great job. Yay. Did it get a little messy? Maybe. But I saw that you tried. Because I know sometimes getting that discouragement of like, oh, I messed up in my effort. Sometimes that gets like that negative energy. But, this is part of us like acknowledging the attempt, acknowledging the effort so that they're willing to try again. Learning is not linear. We are going to fail a few times before we get it right. We just need to work through it, have patience for ourselves, for our learners, to try to keep going. And, like part of that is like that very specific praise of it.
Yeah.
They're like,
Good job doesn't tell me what I did.
No.
It just means that I get a good job. What did I do though? I don't know what I did good for to get this good job. So yeah, I'm getting reinforced, but for what? Like, what did I do exactly? And so it does feel a little silly when you're like, nice job putting the cup under the water. That was so, it feels silly, but like you want them to be encouraged to not only repeat the step and get better at it because practice makes perfect, but to then take the next steps and reinforce each step as you go. So yeah, it does feel silly when you're like, nice job putting your sock on before your shoe.
It's a big deal.
I did that though. Like that's what I did correctly.
And I know this part can be exceptionally difficult, especially right after a behavior.
Absolutely.
I know sometimes it's hard, like, you know what? As like a therapist, yeah, I'm a little upset. You got bubble juice in my shoes. I've got wet socks. And sometimes it's hard to like know that like, yes, I'm still upset about it, but to them, they've moved on. We're on to something different, and they need that to like be able for me to move on with them so that we can skip past it. Well, not skip past it, but like we went through it already. We processed it, and now it's time for the next part. That we did the behavior, that we're in the process of like we've corrected it, and that we need to know that like we're okay. That like my learner and we are okay. What happened doesn't diminish our relationship.
Absolutely. I do not hold any grudges toward you, even though you threw your shoe at my head. However, that shoe back on your foot now. Nice job,
Congratulations.
friends. And now you're sitting at the table and you're like, man, my head kind of hurts, but let's get this coloring sheet, dude. Nice job. You're sitting in your chair. You're coloring nicely. And it's like, yeah, you still went through the behavior, but now the behavior's over. We talked about it. We've done the whole beginning, middle, end, and now it is the end, and we are able to move on.
And that's like a really big part of it, is to let client know our relationship is okay. That we are okay. This happened. We worked through it. But coming right after like, yeah, your shoe was on. I love that, to know that they are okay.
Mm.
And I can't like stress enough. I know it's very stressful sometimes. It is very hard. And like a big thing is to remember that, especially with this diagnosis, it's not personal.
Absolutely.
They're not directly mad at me for us like having to leave the play space. They're mad that the fun had to end.
Absolutely.
So I have to remind myself that, it's not personal. It's not me. It's it's that experience like having to be over or they didn't get access to it. It's about that. It's not about me.
Absolutely.
And
Just yesterday, I had a client tell me, we had to end his most awesome. He loves doing this one particular thing, and I had to end it. It was time to be over, and he got so upset with me. He was, "You're the most annoying, and you're not fun at all." And I was like, I wanted to like cry a little bit. I was like, no, not me. I thought I was the greatest. And then today, of course, we were playing, and he's like, you're so fun.
Mhm.
You're the greatest teacher that I have. And I'm like, yeah,
Mhm.
I am the greatest teacher that you. Not at all, but yeah, it really hurt my feelings, and I wanted to take it personally, but I was like, you know what? I literally just had stopped this really fun thing. Like
Mhm.
we were having a really awesome time, and I put a stop to it. The fun is over. He's not upset with me. Like, yeah, he's feeling at this moment that I am the most annoying person, but overall, this is not how he feels about me. This is literally just
Mhm.
him processing the feelings of having to stop this really fun activity and moving on to something less preferred, less fun.
I think it's really important to remember, like, as the RBT, as a caregiver, that your feelings are also valid in these experiences because it is upsetting when your shoes get ruined or your cup is destroyed, and that sometimes it's hard to not take that so personal. But having patience for yourself, for the situation. And I know, when it comes to behaviors, like I said earlier, they're not my favorite, but they're my favorite to get through because I will never see it as like me against my learner. It's my learner against the behavior.
Absolutely.
Every time. It is never about my learner, it is about the behavior. And so and some days it's a little hard. It's like, but no, it's not about me. It's not about them. It's about this behavior. It's that we're struggling with communication. And that is the big thing to remember, that, you know, it's the two of us, my learner and I, against, you know, the improper communication. It's us figuring it out, to remember that. And that also really helps, it can snap you back out of like, all right, it's done. We got to be happy about this. We got to move forward.
And bring the energy back up
Mm-hmm.
in a positive way. You just expelled a lot of energy in a negative way, so we're going to expel a lot of energy in a positive way. And this is going to reset again. Like it builds that momentum up to learn new things, to learn those other coping mechanisms, those replacement
Mhm.
behaviors, and then to for them to occur more often.
And like when it comes to this, like now we're rebuilding the energy of fun because as an RBT, I do want to be seen as the most fun thing in the area. I want my learner to want to hang out with me. I want to be so fun. And part of it is like to rebuild that energy is that like, oh, you told me you wanted this toy. Not only let's grab this toy, let's grab another toy and let's have a major play sesh. Let's go hard into play. And that's what we got to do.
Absolutely.
Did you want to be a zombie and like have to like give magic potions so that my brain will keep regrowing so that you can eat it? Oh, let me give you a box full of potions. I doubled down on that fun to only build up that energy. And as we're playing, like, oh, I'm so glad you put on your shoes because now we can go run and be zombies. I'm so glad that that you went to the potty, so now we can play without having to stop now. To be very specific in that praise and like building that motivation again so that they remember like this is why I did this. I do see your hand raised.
So I have a question. So during the negative behavior, correct? Do you still give positive reinforcement if they express how they feel during it? So, like, say they're like a child that usually doesn't express how they feel, but during that behavior, like behavior said, you're the most annoying person in the world. Do you give positive reinforcement for that for them expressing their feelings, or do you not give that positive reinforcement?
So when it comes to like that, like you're so annoying, like I will acknowledge it, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
Absolutely.
And then maybe that's my segue into like, I'm sorry you feel that way, but here's something that we can do about it.
Mhm.
And so, it takes a lot of energy to be upset and to be in these behaviors. And so sometimes they're tired of it. So let me give you the opportunity for us to change it.
Absolutely. And you also want to validate that feeling if they're expressing it and be like, oh, okay, I understand that you're feeling that I'm the most annoying person in the world.
I'm sorry
You
you're
know?
frustrated.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you feel that way, but I kind of understand it. Like validate the feeling without but without I don't want to.
It's like validate the feeling, but not so much in the way that it was delivered.
There you go.
Because no, it's not appropriate to just tell everybody you're annoying, you're the worst. But like, I'm sorry you're upset. I'm sorry you're frustrated. You can say like, I'm
Mhm.
frustrated that you told me we have to leave. So like acknowledging it and in that moment giving them the words to replace it
Mhm.
and then fixing it. Because it's not enough to acknowledge like, I'm sad, I'm angry, like yeah, like yes, that's important. Identify it, acknowledge it, but what can we do with it?
Absolutely.
And that's like really big part that I know a lot of places and people will miss. Like, yeah, okay, you're sad, but here's what we can do about it. And giving them those control choices now
Mhm.
to give them that autonomy, like over the situation, over their own feelings. Because I know as an adult, I feel trapped by my own feelings. That I'm like I'm so upset, that there's nothing I can do. And then but finding that little thing to give me autonomy over my own feelings is really helpful. So acknowledge the feeling, give them, maybe better phrasing for it, and then what we can do so we can like get out of it.
Absolutely.
Sometimes for those things like we do have like token boards as like that middle mini like visual reminder of like how many questions we've done, what we need to do to like, to get to our prize. Like, uh, you told me you're frustrated. Oh, thank you. A little token. Like,
Mhm.
we get a few more of these, we can go play. We can go get that toy that we wanted. And that's all about finding that motivation of finding what works, like to get out of it, but like working through it.
Yes.
So like that's a great way to, and especially it teaches that delayed gratification. Like as adults, we wait every other week for a paycheck. But little kids, they don't have that. They don't have that attention span that they do need that reinforcer faster.
Absolutely.
So like giving that little visual of like, good job to like keep it going, to keep it moving is really big. It's really important. Just finding like what works for them, like I've had a kid that like worked for, stickers to put on the window. Like, oh, you're frustrated. Thank you for telling me that. Thank you for using your words. You want to go put a sticker on the window? And sometimes that's enough to like snap out of the behavior. Just to remind them like there is things that we can do about it. That's a big part of the behavior is that they get lost in like, this is the only way I can get this to fulfill this function. This is the only way. But that little reminders of like, there is, a better way to communicate,
Mhm.
a better way to go about this, that, that we can keep doing. And that especially like after like the throwing of the shoes, because maybe they didn't want to leave the area. That's when you remind them like, thanks for putting on your shoes. I know it was hard to leave,
Mhm.
but now we have the opportunity to go do something else.
Mhm.
Like the younger they are, the quicker that you have to reinforce like that behavior that you do want to see more often so that it continues and to like move on to the next thing. Because it's like hard to stop something fun and then go to something that's like not as fun, but like figuring out that segue into it.
Yes.
But that's like a really big thing. Um, so like that's the beforehand. This is what we can do. We've in the behavior, and now we're out of the behavior. So like to wrap it all up, all behavior is communication. When it comes to like these challenging behaviors, it's just maybe we haven't found the right way to express what we're wanting, what we're not wanting. Like sometimes like with things that they don't want, like toys that they don't want, that's when we can see, the behaviors are like quickly trying to get rid of it, to find and know those words, those communications. And a big thing I'll say for everybody is consistency. Consistency is the most magical thing in the world. If the correction to get out of it, to find our way, and that's what we have to do, to figure it out. That maybe we've run through the behavior like a few times, but we found like our way to get out of it. Like, and I say get out of it, but it's like getting out of like that feeling. Because if we're at this point in the challenging behaviors, there's some really big feelings. There's some really big, maybe the negative, like upset, angry, sad. Like to feel those, but to get out of those feelings, not so much to get out of like the task at hand of we're washing our hands, we're going to the bathroom. That consistently, that every time like this happens, it's the same process. And I know we do get into a lot of conversations like schools, parents here, so that every time that situation occurs, we respond the same way. So that next time before, like even what would have been like a known cause of behavior, that they're like, oh, they recognize that pattern, like, oh, this is what's going to happen. Instead, can I have more time?
Right.
Instead of like that elopement behavior, that recognizing that pattern can help stop the behavior before it even happens. If you've worked through it enough times, that it's always going to be the same. Like, you asked for more time. Thank you. Thank you for using your words. Oh, you want the toy? You've told me. Can I have it? You've pointed at it. Because not all communication is verbal, but using their communication to make those requests. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And as I said, it doesn't always have to be words, because not every child has the ability to unlock their words just yet, especially within children with autism. Their words may develop later in life. So meeting your child where they are in forms of communication. If they're pointing instead of hitting, then we're gonna accept the point. If you are completely nonverbal, but you use your AAC device to let me know, hey, you got it. And there are sometimes where even like I've seen situations in which like there's no like solidified form of communication yet. And they're like the child is just like making up words in their own language as they go. So like I've had a client where he, like, if he wanted his pants on when he was ready for his pants, but he couldn't say pants, he would just tap his hips. Like, that was his thing for putting his pants on. Hey, thanks for letting me know you want to put your pants on. You absolutely got it. And it's about learning what their form of communication is and then rocking with it.
I know as an adult, sometimes my words don't shine through. And I know that I have the ability to talk, but sometimes it's hard. So, and I do find like that secondary form of communication, and and I've talked my partner through this, like, sometimes I can't verbalize it. Sometimes that's really difficult for me. But these little physical signals, this is what I'm meaning. I'm talking about, beforehand. And and I've talked to the clients through this too. Like, they're just like having a really bad day. And somebody was saying hi to them. Like before, I even expect them to respond to them, like, if we're not ready to, to talk to people, we can just wave and walk.
Or hit them with the mirror street. I don't want to talk.
I don't want to talk. That finding that communication, consistently using that plan and that form of communication with them to give it to it, and then reinforcing the replacement. Because you know what? Saying ball is absolutely a replacement for like wanting ball, instead of throwing things at you until you go get it. that asking
Throwing the ball is a functional replacement for throwing cups. I'd rather you throw a ball than to watch a cup break.
again,
If it's
they ask how many, they don't ask how.
throwing, yeah.
And I did have a client who really liked throwing things again because of that automatic sensation, but he wanted to throw valuable items off of the second, floor. So what we did is like, he'd start like maybe picking up the cup, like, "Are you ready to throw, buddy?" And then he'd nod yes. I'm like, "All right, let's go get our bucket." And we had a bucket of like stuffed animals because we were still getting that behavior, out, that sensation of I need to throw, but we're doing it in a safer way that that works for us. Because not every response is going to be that ideal. Some behaviors, they're going to happen, but what we can do is we can make it safe. Sometimes that urge to throw, that may not be a behavior that we expect out of like a neurotypical child, but for us, we need to get it out of our system. And if we don't get out of our system, something worse is going to happen. So absolutely, meeting our learners where they're at, like, I need to do this, so let's find a safe way to do it. Absolutely.
I was thinking, you want to throw? I'll go ball up some paper. Let's have a snowball fight. Like, make it fun. Make it so that, oh, I'm feeling the need to throw. Hey, can we go have a snowball fight?
Can I go throw something?
Can I go throw this ball?
Mhm.
Like, making it so that we're providing, like, the key to playing here is making it fun enough to where, oh, I'm not thinking that I'm doing anything, but like when it comes up,
Mhm.
it's like, I'm gonna go get a ball to throw because I don't want to throw this. And it's like, oh, look at that, you did it, yay! Like, reinforcing it is because that image automatically pops up in their head
Mhm.
because we're consistently reinforcing it.
Yeah. So really, the behavior, it may not be ideal, but we can find something for it. We can find safer options. I don't know. Sometimes, and I've said this in like a previous episode, that when I get upset, I do need to get that physically out. So like I'll need dough. And it's all about finding the replacements for it. It's about finding what works for you. If we can't change the environment, to better suit us to prevent the behavior, then we just got to go through it and we figure out which way we need to go through it. And then hooting and hollering, hooray for that more appropriate replacement. And sometimes you do need that outside help, of maybe like an ABA clinic. And that's okay. Ain't no shame in it. This is our jam.
We're a great resource.
And if you ever have any questions that you would like to ask us directly, our info@verityaba.com is always available. Please ask away as many questions. I do see a hand raised. Yes.
Okay, so hold on, give me a second. I'm
Oh, no
messing with
problem.
my phone. So with y'all teaching the kids certain ways to express their behaviors, how do you take that and tell their parents they could continue those learned behaviors that you're teaching them so they won't regress when they come back the next day?
Absolutely. So here at Verity, it is mandatory that we do parent trainings at least, what is it, twice, 2 to 4
I would say
times a month.
at least an hour a week.
Absolutely. This is to make sure that we are all remaining consistent across the board. It's important. Consistency is the only way that ABA is going to work. Um, so absolutely, parent trainings, an hour a week.
So we're always on board with, parents, and part of like the behavior intervention plan is that parents actually have to sign off on it before we ever implement it. So every person of their team, and that not only includes the RBTs, that includes the BCBA, that includes parents, that includes teachers, that includes, people who live in the home. We are all part of one team. We are all consistent. We figure out what works and we go from there. Are there any other questions, comments, concerns?
Alrighty. Well, we know that this was a lot of information, but we want you guys to remember that you're not alone. Just make sure, oh, excuse me. um, you're always able to partner closely with your BPBAs and your RBTs. And since we have no other questions, we are going to go ahead and end our call for the night. Thank you so much, you guys, for joining us on the Verity webinar.
And if you would like to go over this information again, all of these episodes are posted on our YouTube channel on Friday at Verity ABA. And also that info email is always open. Please shoot us an email. Give us a call. Check out our website. We will always have, well, we may not always have the answer, but we will always find a way to figure it out with you.
Absolutely. And we do post social stories on our website that parents and teachers can request topics for.
So that's Verity.